We're often told that truth welts, right? That crimes get solved through, careful police work, forensics, maybe a witness steps up.
Mhm.
But sometimes the most chilling clues, the actual confessions, they come straight from the killers themselves. And not like in the movies, not tearful admissions. We're talking about calculated, really unsettling ways they incriminate themselves.
It's a strange, dark kind of paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
The people who tried so hard to hide what they did, they end up, well, basically engineering their own downfall, and often in ways that just add another layer of, I don't know, grim fascination.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're digging into 3 cases where the confession wasn't just, saying I did it. It was more like a disturbing performance. We've got a digital clue left with almost shocking arrogance. We have a sort of phantom killer who confessed through silence, through a lack of emotion. And then there's this descent into online horror where murder became, well, a public show.
Yeah.
We're looking at the stories behind the floppy disk, the silent operator, and the online exhibitionist. So just a heads up, this is going to get pretty unsettling.
Definitely. And each case really gives us a stark look at how varied, frankly, disturbing the motivations can be. Not just for the crimes, but for revealing them in these, well, these bizarre ways. Understanding that, however twisted, it's important.
Okay, let's start in Wichita, Kansas. Try to picture this guy, Dennis Rader. Seems totally normal.
Yeah.
Deeply involved in his community, right? Church council president, works as a compliance officer, family man.
The picture of respectability, really.
Totally. But underneath that, this other identity. BTK bind, torture, kill. For almost 20 years, starting back in '74, he terrorized Wichita. Brutal crimes. And he'd send these taunting letters to the media, to the police.
Right, the letters were a huge part of it. That need for recognition, for control over the narrative, playing games with the investigators. It wasn't just about the violence itself.
And then, after 1991, nothing. He just went dark for more than 10 years.
Yeah. And that silence, you have to wonder if that created a kind of void for him. Someone with that kind of ego probably couldn't stand fading away, you know?
Makes sense. Because then, fast forward to 2004, and suddenly BTK is back. Packages start showing up again at news stations. Same chilling style. He wanted that spotlight again.
He needed the attention.
And here's where it gets really weird. In one message, he actually asks the police, straight up, if I send you a floppy disk, can you trace it?
Wow. Just asks them.
Yep. And the police, they took a massive gamble. They told him no, it wouldn't be traceable.
That's incredible. It shows this bizarre mix, doesn't it? Arrogance, thinking he's smarter than everyone, but also kind of clueless about the tech, even back then. A floppy disk in 2004.
I know, and he fell for it. Soon after, this purple floppy disk arrives at a local TV station. Inside, there's a file, just labeled something like, test message from BTK.
And that was it.
That was the key. Digital forensics jumped on it, the hidden data, the metadata in the file. It showed it was last edited by Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church.
Oh my God.
And the computer was registered to Dennis Rader.
Unbelievable. The very thing he thought was safe, the thing he asked about, contained the exact breadcrumb they needed.
Exactly. It all unraveled so fast after that. His DNA was a match to old crime scene evidence. They arrested him right there in his church parking lot.
Wow.
But his reaction, his confession, it was something else. During the interrogation, reports say he was just eerily calm, detached, talking about these horrific acts, but referring to his victims as projects.
Projects. That's deeply disturbing. It's complete dehumanization. It lets him distance himself psychologically from the sheer brutality.
Apparently, when they asked about his methods, he even smiled. Just no remorse. Zero.
That lack of emotion, that clinical recounting, it points to a really profound lack of empathy, just a fundamentally disturbed individual.
And then at the trial, no apologies, no seeking forgiveness. He just stood up and gave this cold, detailed account of every murder, like he was giving a presentation, almost proud, laying out his whole dark history.
Not a confession driven by guilt then, more like the final act of his performance.
Exactly. He got 10 life sentences back to back.
Yeah.
And that purple floppy disk, it became this potent symbol, didn't it?
Yeah, the instrument of his own downfall, delivered by his own hand, all because of that ego, that need to be known.
Such a stark contrast to, say, someone confessing out of overwhelming guilt.
Completely different motivation. Rader's case really shows how that craving for notoriety, believing you're smarter than everyone else, can just totally override self-preservation. It wasn't about release, it was about reclaiming the stage.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Completely different type of killer. Israel Keys. He lived up in Alaska, worked construction, and by all accounts, super quiet guy, polite, kept to himself. the kind you wouldn't look twice at.
Right, almost the opposite of Rader's eventual craving for the spotlight. Keyes seems like he thrived on anonymity, which makes him, in some ways, even more frightening.
Definitely. Because under that quiet surface was this incredibly meticulous, calculating, and very prolific serial killer.
His methods were just chillingly organized. He operated completely differently. No taunting letters, no public games initially.
Yeah, the kill kits, that's one of the most disturbing parts. Years ahead of time, he'd bury these plastic tubs all over the country, filled with guns, zip ties, money, tools for disposal, everything he'd need.
Pre-planning to an extreme degree?
Totally. Then he'd fly to some random state, rent a car, dig up a kit, find a victim, seemingly totally at random.
Strangers. Always strangers, right. To minimize connections.
Exactly. Commit the murder, dispose of the body, get rid of the kid stuff, fly home, back to his normal life in Alaska. Like nothing happened.
That level of compartmentalization is terrifying, and burying the kits meant less risk of discovery during travel or at his home, just cold logistical precision.
His end really began in 2012. He abducted an 18-year-old barista, Samantha Koenig, from her coffee stand in Anchorage. He was caught on surveillance video. Horrifying.
Yeah, I remember that. And didn't he then contact the family?
He did, which was just cruel beyond belief. He sent ransom texts. He even took a photo of Samantha days after he'd killed her, posed with a newspaper to make it look like she was alive.
Oh, that's just monstrous, giving them false hope like that.
He had actually killed her the same night he took her. The ransom demands, the photo. Pure deception and control.
Just absolute coldness, no empathy whatsoever.
But when they finally caught him, traced him through ATM withdrawals using Koenig's debit card, actually his confession was slow. Deliberate.
Again, about control, you think, not guilt.
Seems like it. He controlled the flow of information. He admitted to killing Samantha, then started hinting at others. A lot of others.
How many did he eventually claim?
He claimed at least 11 victims, maybe more. He talked about how he chose strangers, planned these trips across the country to avoid patterns.
And his demeanor while talking about it.
Chillingly detached. Clinical. There's this infamous account of him calmly describing dismembering a body and then just asking for a glass of water. Like discussing the weather.
Wow. That juxtaposition is just, it highlights that profound disconnect from the gravity of his actions, just complete indifference.
And he left investigators with this haunting line. You'll never find them all. Before they could get the full story, Israel Keyes killed himself in his jail cell.
So he took those secrets with him.
Pretty much. He left behind some drawings, though. 11 skulls. A sort of silent, anonymous tally of his victims. No names, no locations, just skulls.
So different from Rader's need for everyone to know his name, his story. Keyes seemed to want control, even in death, and maybe anonymity for his victims. Both terrifying, but Keyes's lack of any apparent emotional reaction is profoundly unsettling.
Okay, one more. This one feels like it could only happen in the internet age. Luka Magnotta. His story starts, disturbingly, with online animal cruelty videos, already seeking attention, seeking notoriety in these awful ways.
Yeah, those early videos were definite red flags, an escalating pattern using shock value online to get noticed. It shows how those platforms can, unfortunately, sometimes feed that kind of need.
And it absolutely escalated. In 2012, he lured a university student, Lin Jun, to his apartment in Montreal. What he did next was just beyond horrific. He killed Lin Jun, dismembered him, and filmed the entire thing.
And then he posted it online.
Edited it first, edited it, added music, and then uploaded it. He turned murder into a grotesque online spectacle.
That's a truly horrifying step, isn't it? Not just committing the act, but curating it, broadcasting it. It's like he wanted to embed this horror into the digital world permanently.
And the performance didn't stop there. He then mailed Lin Jun's body parts, hands and feet, sent them to political party offices in Ottawa and to schools in Vancouver.
Just mailing them.
Yeah. With notes, some signed the New York Ripper, or similar names. It wasn't the confession like Keyes' calm admissions or Rader's proud presentation. It was, I don't know, a macabre PR campaign.
Definitely theatrical, taunting, sending remains like that, using aliases. He wasn't trying to hide, was he? He was trying to make a statement, create more horror, more headlines.
Exactly, which led to this massive international manhunt. He fled to Europe. Sightings in Paris, then Berlin.
And where did they finally catch him?
In an internet cafe.
In Berlin.
And what was he doing?
Don't tell me.
Reading news articles about himself.
Of course. Even on the run, that need for attention, for notoriety, was paramount. It literally led them right to him.
At his trial, His defense tried the mental illness angle,
Yeah.
said he wasn't in control.
But the evidence.
Right. The filming, the careful editing of the video, the calculated mailing of parts, the planned escape, it all screamed planning and deliberation, didn't it? More like a twisted message than madness.
It seems that way. The court certainly thought so.
Yeah, he got life in prison. And that horrific video is, thankfully, banned almost everywhere, though it's hard to erase things completely online. Magnotta's whole spree feels like the ultimate chilling performance confession, using the internet to broadcast atrocity.
It's a terrifying example of how the digital age can amplify the absolute darkest parts of human behavior. The internet gave him the stage he craved for his horrific production, a fusion of online infamy and real-world violence.
So we've looked at three really distinct, really disturbing paths to confession, haven't we? Rader, driven by pure ego, needing that recognition, leaving that digital breadcrumb.
Yeah. Then keys, all cold control and emotionless admission, keeping secrets even as he revealed others.
And finally, Magnotta, the horrific online spectacle, murder as performance art, almost.
It drives home that these confessions, they weren't cries for help. They weren't about remorse. They were calculated acts, each revealing a different shade of darkness.
It's unsettling, too, that sometimes justice gets served, or at least advanced, because of the killer's own twisted needs and actions.
It really does. And it leaves you thinking about the psychology behind it all, doesn't it? Why confess this way? And maybe more disturbingly, how easily that kind of darkness can hide behind a normal face, a quiet demeanor.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about all the different, often deeply unsettling ways the truth can claw its way out, even from the deepest shadows. And what other horrors might be hiding, just waiting for their own bizarre reveal.